Welcome to the Brave Women at Work podcast. This is your host, Jeanne Sparrow. I'm so glad you're here. With the Brave Women at Work podcast, you'll get the resources and tips along with real-world stories and humor to empower and inspire you to take bolder and braver actions in your career and life. Welcome to the Brave Women at Work podcast. This is your host, Jeanne Sparrow. I'm so glad you're here. Well, hey everyone, how are you doing out there? So I absolutely love the topic we are talking about today, fearless authenticity. And guess what? This is so cool. Authenticity just so happens, the universe kind of collides. Sometimes it's meant to be. So authenticity is the topic for the next book in the Brave Women at Work women's anthology series. So we're focusing on authenticity. So the timing is perfect. And like a true nerd that I am, I wanted to do an internet search because I knew kind of in my bones, like, what does fearless on authenticity mean? But I wanted to look it up for you and share it with you. So according to Google, and now it said AI, right? So according to AI, artificial intelligence, so that search kind of turned up this definition. Fearless authenticity means living a life true to your core values and beliefs without fear of judgment or societal expectations. It involves embracing your unique self, accepting your flaws, and expressing your thoughts and feelings openly and honestly, even when it's challenging or uncomfortable. It's about finding the courage to be vulnerable and unapologetically yourself, even when it may not align with what others expect or want. Boom. Mic drop on that one. And so I have to tell you, I aspire to a fearless authenticity at life and at work. So the question is, what about you? Doesn't that just sound yummy and lovely? So there are times like, we're humans. I'm human, right? I'm not a bot, at least not that I know of. But there are times when I feel like I'm living and working in that state of fearless authenticity. And then there are times I just slip right out of it. It's frustrating. So my simple goal is to be in that state of fearless authenticity more, a little bit more at a time. So I was so pumped to talk with my guest today, Jeanne Sparrow. So during the podcast, Jeanne and I chatted about the story behind her Emmy Awards, plural. So if you see the podcast on YouTube, I would just go to YouTube to check it out, really. She has like behind her, I'm kind of pointing behind. So for my people in audio are like, what are you talking about? But my YouTube, like folks, you'll see like right in behind, she has her Emmy Awards like live and in the flesh, beautifully visible in the background. And it was just so fun to see. We talked about what living it, telling it, and selling it means to Jeanne, how everyone can discover their own personal brand, the story behind Jeanne's book, Fearless Authenticity, Lead Better, Sell More, and Speak Sensationally. What the concept of is prestige. So what is the concept of prestige in every one of us? So I've heard the movie The Prestige, which is awesome, by the way, not related to what we're talking about today, but I've heard about the word prestige or the movie Prestige or things like that, but not the idea of prestige in a person. So I kind of dug in and we kind of like pulled at that thread a little bit and what that means and how we can leverage it in place of imposter syndrome. So here is more about Jeanne. Jeanne Sparrow's 3 decades of award-winning work in the media with a reach of more than 500 million people, combined with her wealth of experience as a respected speaker, trusted leadership and communication consultant, and graduate faculty member at Northwestern University, have led her to empower others to move with greater intentionality, speak with more presence, and lead in ways that create real connection and lasting results. She calls this the power of fearless authenticity, and it has been the passion and focus of her speaking and consulting work for the past 8 years. And now in her book, she's sharing her system for success called Fearless Authenticity, Lead Better, Sell More, and Speak Sensationally. Jeanne's broadcasting career started in radio, first as a traffic reporter, then as a co-host of daily radio shows with comedic giants Steve Harvey, George Wallace, and Tom Joyner. She moved on to TV as a traffic and entertainment reporter for NBC before hosting her own daily morning TV talk show for nearly 10 years. Along the way, she interviewed hundreds of Hollywood heavyweights and won seven, did you hear that? Seven regional Emmy Awards. She currently hosts her own weekly radio show for V103, the number one ranked iHeart radio station in Chicago, along with her podcast, Fearless Authenticity with Jeanne Sparrow, and appears regularly on top rated Chicago TV stations and as a fill in host and guest. So, if the Brave Women at Work podcast has helped you either professionally or personally, please be sure to share this show or the whole series of shows as it grows with a family member, a friend, or a colleague. And as I say, your ratings and reviews help the show continue to gain traction and it just tentacles out right into the world. I think our high watermark has been like 34 or 35 countries. So if you think about it, like just, shut your eyes for a minute and think about a globe, like 35 countries around the globe. Like, how humbled am I? So if anyone wants to leave a rating and review, do that right in Apple Podcasts. And if you've already done it, I just thank you. You really have made my day. Also, if you haven't yet downloaded one or all of the freebies from my website, check them out at bravewomenatwork.com. The three out there today are 24 career and leadership affirmations, 5 ways to managing your imposter syndrome, and getting paid 10 negotiation tips. So again, you can find those on my website at bravewomenatwork.com. Speaking about affirmations, I mentioned, I think on my last show, but just kind of continuing the spreading the good word, I created a physical deck of affirmation cards. How fun is that? So, how does it relate to the podcast? So, if you're a longtime listener, I ask every one of my guests towards the end of the show, what are 1 to 2 ways that women can be braver at work? And I had a brainstorm. What if I actually went back to those podcast guests, back to the authors that I work with, back to people that I have affiliated with over the past 5 years and memorialize those in an affirmation deck? And I have to tell you, and of course I'm biased, they are so beautiful. They are swirls of color and paint and patterns, and they're just so joyful to hold in your hand. And so the purpose of those are for you to take a card a day and or a few and just, put them on your desk, boldly display them, or just reflect on them in terms of a journaling prompt and or just something to inspire you. So those are going to be available, I'm hoping late August 2025 as I'm recording this, or in September. So this fall, they are coming and they will be available for purchase on my website. Again, bravewomenatwork.com. Last update is I have 1 to 2 spots available for coaching this fall. So if you're looking for individualized support, everything is personal to you. It's not cookie cutter. I customize, custom tailor all the coaching to you and your professional goals. Please check out, you can click on schedule a discovery call on my website, bravewomenatwork.com. And all we do on that website is we schedule time together to understand your goals, your career history, maybe where you're getting caught up. And then I explain the coaching process, the length of time, how it works, and we'll see if it's a fit. Either way, if you have any interest or it's kind of nudging you in that direction, schedule a time with me, 30 minutes, no harm, no foul, at my website. All right, let's welcome Jeanne to the show. Well, hello, Jeanne. Welcome to Brave Women at Work. How are you today?
I'm feeling brave. How are you, Jen?
I'm feeling brave, and we are already having so much, like everybody, we're rolling over here even before we hit record. So we're going to have a party today, Jeanne. What do you think?
I love it. I love
Let's
great
do it.
conversations between brave, amazing women.
Yes, yes, let's go there. So why don't you tell us, because I can already tell based on even before record, you're a beautiful storyteller. And I think that's part of the work you do. So tell us, and this is a big question, Jeanne. So wherever you want to start, tell us a little bit about you and your background story and how you've gotten to where you are sitting in, where are you at? Where are you at in Chicago again?
I am in Wicker Park.
Wicker Park area. But for those Chicagoans, you know the neighborhood. Anyway, tell us about your story.
So I'm originally from Louisiana. I started in broadcast when I was 17 years old in radio just for fun because I didn't know that could possibly be a career. Continued it when I came up here to go to college at Northwestern. was in psychology, but ready to go to grad school. And that break ended up being an entire career. I didn't go back to school until I was well into my 40s. I had already done years of radio and television. And the reason why I went back to school was because, and I didn't even go back into my original degree, which was in psychology. I went into communications because I wanted to understand what I knew, because I was encountering so many people who were having challenges that to me seemed to be based in communications, even though they weren't talking about it in those terms. They were leadership issues, they were sales issues, there were marketing issues. And I used to get invited to speak and work with people all the time, or anytime somebody had to be on camera for something, they were definitely calling me like, hey, I need some help. So I
Mm,
originally thought my business, I always wanted to own my own business. I thought it was going to be um, a media consulting firm, on air coaching and different things like that. And I realized that most people need to have some sort of baseline before they get to that point. And that's how the system for fearless authenticity came into being, because
mm,
this was sort of the preparatory work I did with my clients before I could ever media train them. And when I went back to grad school, I also realized how many people were felt stymied by their ability to connect either with their team members on the same level, across departments, also up and down the org chart, and also when they were stepping into leadership roles. And I realized that there were things that I knew from broadcasting and communicating with people my whole life that I needed to share. And that's how the book came about.
mm. Okay, so now I feel a little intimidated because you actually have a background in broadcast and journalism. I'm just some lady that picked up a mic and started a podcast, but we'll have fun regardless.
That's all that it needs. Listen, if you are able to project yourself through whatever medium you decide, then you're a broadcaster too. Just because I've been doing it in a different arena doesn't mean that you're not, right? So
Yes. Well, yeah, we
there's
all got to start somewhere, right? And you started,
exactly.
we're all starting in different places. Well,
And you have your Shure mic, and mine is over here somewhere because I just moved.
that's
And I didn't
fine.
hook it up.
All the grace, lady, all the grace. You know
Thank
what
you,
I
my
mean?
dear. Thank you. No
Yes.
art on the walls. I
Whatever,
did I
everybody. If
did
you're
get my
watching on
Emmys up there.
YouTube, yeah, we're all about compassion in the Brave Woman at Work community.
I
So
love it.
imagine artwork, imagine the mic. She's gonna be all hooked up. When we talk to her for her next book. So we're all good. Okay.
Awesome.
So I looked at your site. What's the story? You have 7 Emmy Awards.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even understand. So, like, do you want to give us a little bit more intel? Like, you were like kind of just skirted around that, Jeanne. I was like, wait a minute. Let's call out the fact that she has 7 Emmy Awards. Tell us a little bit
So
about that.
they're all regional Emmys for the Chicago Midwest region from my
Okay.
work in television here, from different stations, from PBS, the WYCC, which was the PBS station attached to the City Colleges of Chicago. I used to host a show called Absolute Artistry, and I also hosted some specials for Black History Month, and for there was a music special we did one time about Chicago's Record Row, and I was a producer and host of that with my team, and we won Emmys for those shows. I also won for some work I did on Channel 50 before it was part of Fox, and also at NBC5 here. We won quite a few Emmys for our coverage of different events, including the Chicago Marathon. So half of my Emmys, I think four of them are group category Emmys, and three of them are individual Emmys. And I need to get new statues because they all broke during the move. Like, okay, you can see them sitting up, like they're
I
literally
can.
precariously, precariously perched on top of my bookcase. I have them there to remind me that I have once done good work. And if I've done it once, I can do it again.
Yeah, 7 times. Okay, I think you're good. Like, you got more in you. So are you actually like striving for that level again? Is that what your goal is?
No,
No.
I always strive to win and do better than I did yesterday. I'm not compete. I'm a very competitive person, but I'm not competing against anybody but myself.
Okay.
Because I feel like I get toxic if I try to compete too much with other people. That's why I was never really great at team sports because it would just like bring out the worst in me. Also, I was very uncoordinated as a child, which probably helped in that arena as well. But I always did better with things that were about improving myself, and I feel like that's what makes me a better part of a team. And
Okay.
I also feel like that's the key to teamwork in the workplace is when you work on yourself, then you are better and occupy your lane. That's what really fearless authenticity is all about, is understanding where you fit and owning that so much so that you can exist and coexist with other people. And that's what I learned from broadcast as well. All of us do the same thing really well and in with different shades, right? But we all have to be able to work together to put a show on.
But I hear the stay in your own lane, right? Stay in your own lane, shine your own light. Like everyone does it slightly differently. So one of the things that you mention in like the research I did on you and your work before the show is that it says 93% is your stat if people compare themselves to others. Like, why do you think we do this? Is it because we're not confident? Like, what's up?
I think there's a number of different reasons, and I don't have any scientific evidence of the exact reasons, but I can tell you anecdotally, I
Yeah.
th- I think it happens for different reasons at different points in our lives. I teach at Northwestern now, and as an adjunct in a master program in the communications department, the same master I went through. And I find that now my most of my students are either in their first jobs out of college or fresh out of college looking for their first jobs.
Hmm.
And I find that they are still comparing themselves to other people and each other because that's what they've done for their whole academic career, right? If you're
Mm.
in elite universities, especially, but I think this happens just because of the way our school system is set up. And especially if you're in a college where they grade on a curve or, you're doing, work that you're used to doing at a certain level and doing it easily, and then you're challenged by other
Hmm.
people who do it just as well, then all of them
Hmm.
are like, because they're used to being one of one and now you're one of many who are at the same level, so now you feel like you have to do something else to shine, not realizing they're shining already and not
Mm.
appreciating like and the striving for perfection, I think, can permeate across generations. I do think that there's an element of keeping up with the Joneses sort of thing, like, oh, I should be at this point in my life. Like we have these benchmarks in our head of if I'm 30, I should have done this by now. If I'm 40, I should have done this by now. And that word should gets us in so much trouble. But I think that's where the root of comparison is that if we see our colleagues or our friends or our family members doing something by a certain amount, a certain time in our lives, then we think we're behind if we're not there at that point because it seems like it's a normal benchmarker, but normal is a range,
It's a
and
relative term. Yeah.
priorities are different, right? And I think once we understand that, it kind of takes away the need to, but I think it's human nature at the end of the day, Jen. I think comparison is human nature because we're always trying to figure out where we fit in, and the only way we figure out where we fit in is in comparison to other people.
Mm. And I would say the anecdote for that is to Google people that have started late in life. So like I looked up Julia Child started like her cookbook came out at age 50. Vera
Yep.
Wang started designing wedding dresses in her I think it was in her 40s.
Yep.
And so it kind of just starts correcting you like, oh, well, I'm a failure if I haven't gotten married or had kids or had this monstrous career or my dream home by a certain age. And maybe we just adjust that, that there is a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. And it's not that they're like sub plans, it's more about it doesn't have to be a cookie cutter plan.
It shouldn't be. On top of that's the only time I will say should, is that your plan should not be a cookie cutter. It should be fit for you. Like I have this analogy I use when I'm speaking about puzzles because I love puzzles, physical puzzles.
Hmm.
And I believe that each of us are created uniquely, and just like a puzzle piece is created uniquely, and
Hmm.
when it snaps into place, it has that satisfying little thing. But when you're trying to jam a piece that's almost right into a spot that isn't, and then it's always just a little bit off and not quite,
Yes.
and here's the thing, that one piece not being in the right place throws everything off. So if we're all like these little pieces of puzzles trying to fit to each other and we're made a certain way, changing the way we're made is actually going to mess up the whole puzzle.
The other thing is I've learned through burnout and as I've aged, right, I've gotten in my career like later on that maybe you're in a season of a whole new puzzle too. So I thought, like with this whole plan A, plan B, plan C, okay, I'm in this puzzle. And then all of a sudden it got confusing because Jeanne, I'm like, my puzzle's like not fitting anymore. And I'm like, oh, I didn't understand it. No one tells you like, hey, go over there to the shelf and pick off like the new puzzle, right? Because you're a piece on the new puzzle now.
I also have an analogy for that for my people who drink wine or whatever beverage they enjoy while they're doing their puzzle. If you've ever gotten a puzzle piece wet and it swells and it never actually fits right, that means you've grown and you've
Oh,
changed,
that's good.
and it's time to find another puzzle where you do fit.
Oh, that is so good. Okay, so I'm not a I call it being a puzzler. I'm not a puzzler, but I like this analogy because it's so visual, it's so visceral. Like we can kind of imagine pouring a little bit of our wine or water or whatever, and it swells and it never goes back. When it dries, does it ever go back to the same size or no? Not
Nah,
really.
it's always a little bit warped and off. It'll fit back in after it dries off, but it's always just a little.
It's a little so if you watch
Yeah.
it on YouTube, that was a fun reaction by Gene. So how does this, because you also talk about personal brand, right? And so is that also all of this puzzle analogy? Is that connected to our personal brand? If so, how is it connected?
So the way I see personal brand, because well, first of all, let me say that I feel like brand and personal brand has been overused. Like it has
Okay.
the idea of that term has become cheapened, I think, because of how much people use it. But it is accurate because it really is a reputation. It is what people know about us and know us for. And
Yes.
I think that it becomes much more powerful when we understand what it is that we've come to do, right? What it is
Mm-hmm.
that we're meant to do, what it is we are good at, what it is that we are meant to serve others with. We all have gifts to share. What are those gifts? And how can we use them in service of each other? Because none of us gets anywhere alone. As much as we would like to think that, we pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps and
Mm-hmm.
all these different individual analogies. Yes, you can grow on your own, but none of us get moves forward without each other. So using your personal brand. So I wouldn't say, I think in some ways it is connected to the puzzle analogy in that it is an acknowledgement that we are unique and that we have unique gifts. And even if I do the exact same thing you do, Jen, I do it differently than you do. You do it differently than I do. So you're going to have people that you connect with in your way that do that same thing. And I'm going to have my way. And there's enough for everybody. So understanding who you are, what value you bring to other people is what your personal brand is. Because when you do it intentionally, because here's the other thing, people know it about you already. You know it about yourself already, but are you being intentional about how you communicate that to other people? Are you being intentional about how you apply it in your everyday life and the things like I know what I do well, and it can look like a whole lot of BS on a certain day because all I do, Jen, is run my mouth. That's all I do. But I know how to tell a good story. I have great relationships. I know how to build relationships with people I don't know. And I know how to teach other people how to do that. That's what I do. I know how, I value stories. I value and for most of my career, all of my career in broadcast, my job was to amplify other people's stories, was to take what they did and put it out to the world. Whether that
Mm-hmm.
was when I was in music radio, and I still do a music radio show on the weekend because I can't help myself. Um, and occasionally appear on TV when I'm needed or what have you. But it's like I love telling other people's stories because I grew up in an environment where stories were really important and were highlighted on purpose. Like that's how we entertained ourselves,
Mm.
and like literally you finish telling somebody something in my family, you're like, okay, well, that's my story for today. What's yours, baby? That kind of thing. And and so, but I think we forget because we take it for granted. But that's what I know my special sauce is. So no matter what I do or how it shows up, that's what I'm going to be doing. You have your thing that you're special at, that everybody knows you for. But when you get intentional about it, then you can tap into the power of it. And that's what the personal brand is.
Okay, so I'm now thinking, so Jeanne, I'm like ideating right now. I'm like, okay, like what's my thing, right? I was talking to my mom the other day and I asked her, like, what's a word that describes me, right? And she
Yes.
said tenacious. So I would say I'm like tenacious as hell, right? So I'm a person that if you bring something to and I'm passion, like there's passion, like I'm gonna go get it done. Like I'm a get it done kind of person. Like I'm also like a real truth teller. So Gene, this is it. This is who I am. Like, this isn't like the podcast, Jen. Like, no, this is me all the way through and through. And hopefully you feel that.
I
And
do.
so it's just like real truth telling and real tenacious that, like, I'm a dog with a bone with my idea.
And that thus the name of your pod, Brave Women at Work.
I
That's
know.
you picked a good word yourself because what is brave if not tenacious, if not truthful, right?
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
one of my words too, brave, because it takes courage to stand your ground. It takes courage, as the kids say, to stand on business. It
Mm-hmm.
does. It takes courage to say, this is who I am. This is what I do well. These are the things I'm not great at, but I'm trying to grow in. This is the gift I have to offer. That's vulnerable. It takes courage to do it. And it takes courage to accept the fact that somebody might not want it. Like even things that seem like commodities or common things like CPAs, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
accountants or what have you. I had an accountant that I didn't get along with, not because he was an unpleasant person, far from it. It was because he was used to talking to somebody with more experience being a business owner, and he was unable to adapt to the level of questions I had, which were real basic, but I
Mm-hmm.
needed that to be able to understand what he was talking about. I moved to a different CPA who was also a woman who had had a small business at one point in time. She understood how I felt. Not that he didn't get it, but he couldn't bridge that gap for me. But
Right.
but he's awesome. Like, and I will still call him for certain things that my
Right.
current one isn't,
Totally.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so he has his group of people. She has her group of people that she speaks to because I'm sure the way she speaks to some people, it doesn't serve their highest, greatest good. So all of us have our people. And when we are true to ourselves, we will find, or the people, they will find us actually.
So there's something on the comparison. So there's a lesson there is to don't like meld yourself into that other lane if you're a business owner, even if you're in like corporate or in a job, right? Because it dilutes your personal brand, right? It's like
Oh,
you're
completely.
starting to, push that puzzle piece in the wrong spot, right? Is what I'm hearing.
And this is where a lot of people go wrong because I remember one time I was doing a talk at a gathering of women in insurance. They were in leadership positions, and I said to them, how many of y'all raise your hands followed the rules to get where you are?
Mm,
And then once you got where you are, you realize those same rules no longer applied, and you didn't know what to do.
right here.
I think, and here's the thing, I think almost everybody, feels that way, because that's almost the reason why the Peter principle is so true, because the thing that gets you to where you want to go is not the thing that's going to keep you there or make you do well. Like, you have to continually, as you develop and grow and are identified to be in a certain place, you have to elevate your own stuff. And when you know what your gift is, then you know how to grow, right? So you can follow the rules, absolutely, because I'm not saying that you shouldn't. But at what point do you meld into what everybody else is doing and become like wallpaper,
Mm-hmm.
where nobody notices what you're doing because you're just another cog in the wheel? Or do they notice that the way you do something is what works? Like, you're working inside the guardrails, like, especially if you have in a highly regulated business or something like that,
Yeah.
there are a lot of things you can't do legally and ethically, nor should you. But there is so much space inside the guardrails. The problem is that sometimes we look at them as constraints as opposed to things that protect us and protect other people. Because when you shift how you think about it, then you find that you have a little more space to play and be yourself and still respect those guardrails for yourself, as opposed to seeing yourself constricted by them. And when you decide that you're going to offer your gift within this, constraint, then you're able to express yourself in a way. And then when you get to the next level, you can say, oh, this is how I can further, maybe the guardrails are a little bit further out because you
Mm-hmm.
have more authority and you have more. So now you can be even more yourself and use your gifts in that arena. Think about people who are like great relationship folks, right? That's going to look different as a teller in a bank than it is when you get into the corporate side.
Totally. Yes, and we're here to tell you that if that's your goal, or if that's, you can use this. Like, I was a teller, right? Now I'm an executive in financial services and run a
I had no
podcast.
idea. I had no idea you were once a
I know. I
teller.
was like, wait, did you do some like recon on me or
Mm,
what? So
I looked at your website, but I never saw that you were a teller.
yeah, no,
I'm
I was a teller.
sometimes Jen, sometimes I'm a little psychic. I'm not really
Okay.
psychic, but that's
I'm
why
a
I call it,
pers-
I'm a psychic sometimes.
well, you're on your spidey sense is on today, right? So I'm here to tell you that, you can leverage those skills to go far, right? You don't have to like stop or, land at a certain spot, and with this podcast and with the work I do with women, like, I am officially straddling two puzzles right now, right? And I'm moving towards another puzzle, and it's okay to move to another puzzle. It can be painful. I'm gonna not lie and be like, oh, like, to realize, like, oh yeah, I'm a piece that has wine spilled on me and I'm uncomfortable now, right? Because it's more comfortable to be cozy and connected, right, to where you were. And it's easier to stay there, but sometimes you got to grab a new one off the shelf.
Absolutely. And here's the other thing. I think when you can connect the things that have gotten you to each place, then it becomes a little more comforting, right? Because you're the same person doing different things with the same set of talents and gifts that you've grown. For instance, me, I started in high school in speech and debate. That's what got me on the radio. I had an audition at a local radio station in New Iberia, Louisiana.
Wow.
And because the program director there liked to hire high school students, because our local university had a very strong broadcast communications program. So he was just like, if you're interested in that, you could do that, work here, you end up getting internship
Amazing.
credits, all this other stuff. So I went, and that's how I started, with that. Then but I started talking, right? And then I was in speech and debate. Then I started doing on the radio. I had to learn how to do it on the radio, because talking on the radio is a little bit different, especially
Hmm.
in the late 80s, right? Then when I came to Chicago, I started doing it, at WNUR at Northwestern, just having fun. Got an internship, started using it in a different way. I ended up writing commercials for WGN radio
How fun.
out of that internship, and then was on air doing traffic, yet another way of communicating. But again, the storytelling is still the same in each place. And you have to kind of look back to see and ask yourself some questions about what work you do, how does it benefit other people, and then what's important to you about it. And when you boil it down to the essence, you get to that Simon Sinek question, the answer
The
to his
why.
question, what's your why? What's your why? What is it about it? Because it's not just about you. It's about how other people are affected by it. And then I had another, like people ask me the question all the time, what do you like better, radio, TV? I'm like, kumquats and raspberries. They're both fruit, but they're very
It's
different.
communication, like if you just boil it all down. Yeah.
Exactly. But they're very different types of communication. Public speaking, like I end up hosting a lot of events, I did do that at the beginning of my radio career and throughout my television career. Now I'm a professional speaker. I didn't even know that was a career because it's a different set of, skills within the same thing that I know I do well.
So, okay, I have to add in here, like a skill, not like it's a tool rather that I give to my coaching clients, and it's called a career map, or you can use it as a life map. And so what happens is, again, we are just like in that job and we're myopic because we don't think of the connections. You're talking about the connections, like flying the plane up a little bit higher and looking at the connections of your life or your career. So, to boil it down, if you are doing a career map, you look at your resume, right? Instead of just like writing it down on paper, like write them down and go, okay, what were the key skills or what were the key learnings, and start connecting the through line, right? So for you, your why is like idea of telling stories, right? And connecting people. But like the spoke of the wheel of your why can be very many, like various mediums. It can be commercials, it can be television, it can be public speaking, it can be speech and debate, but it all circles the same essential why. And so people don't do that. Same thing with your life. So if you think about like huge life events, there are things that come to a central why point, but we're not taught to do that. So I hope that this is a skill that people listening, women listening, can take away because it's invaluable for you planning your next step in your life, your next step in your career.
One of the questions, I love how you do that from a big picture perspective, because it's like using a drone and starting to
Oh
look at
yeah, a
things from a
drone. Yeah.
perspective that you can't. One of the questions that I ask people is, what work do you do? Not what your job description is,
Mm,
not what, because most job descriptions are based around outcomes, right? They're not necessarily based around the actual work that you do. It's about expectations. This is what you are expected to do and produce in this job. But what does it take to actually do it? So I always ask people the question, what work do you do? What do you do every day? What are the
mm,
things you do every day? And when you boil it down to that, then you also start to bring in for those people, because I've encountered people in trainings, and I'm sure you have as well, who their work isn't that important to them, right? Their
correct.
everyday
They're
work,
just
they're
clocking
there.
it in. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Good workers doing good jobs, but that is not their passion. All of their passions lie outside of their work. And when you talk to them about what do they do every day, the tasks, the work of their lives, then they start to encompass their hobbies, if that's one of their passion things, their children, what do they do for them? Like coaches, people who are amazing coaches of their kids' soccer teams or baseball teams, or the dance moms and things like that. There are skills. And I have a friend, my one of my best friends from high school, who is the most amazing stage mom in the world, because she is the most organized person I know. She's that mom that always has something in the trunk for everybody. And when I tell you, when we go on trips, the way, and to look at her, you would never, because she's so laid back. She is never, but she is always ready. Because I remember she told me this the first time we went on a vacation together as young adults. She was like, we were packing. I was like, girl, I hope I have everything. Because you know how when you first start traveling, you're packing everything. She was like, girl, there is a Walgreens or a Walmart everywhere. We will be fine.
I
And
kind of love her. She's
oh,
prepared.
she exactly, because for her, it was like, I'm not going to worry because I know I have a solution, right? That's who she is. She's a nurse and
Oh, yes.
she has a solution. Like, there is no problem that she can't fix. There's not, I have yet to
So
encounter.
that's her work as being a
So
problem solver.
she like a stellar problem solver. especially when the chips are down and lives are on. Like she's saved my
Good
life
friend to
once.
have, Jean. Good friend to
Yes.
have. Yeah. That
So,
is so awesome.
and I don't even know how she sees that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and I wonder how most people see the work of their lives. And that's the reason why I ask the question that way, because I feel like people think of work as what they get paid for, not what they do.
Hmm. God, you've given me some head scratchers. I got to do some journaling later today, Jean.
Okay. I hope that's a
So
good thing. It sounds like a
it's a
good
good
thing.
thing. It's a good thing. Yeah, because it gets me thinking and right gets our listeners thinking, right? And I may even do as I'm ideating here again, I might do some journal prompts as a part of our podcast, like on the back end. What do you think? Do you want to
I
do some
love
journal
that.
prompts?
I
Okay.
love that. I
So we'll
might
do
have to
some
do them
journal.
too.
Yeah, so I'll send them to you and then we'll like put them as part of the show notes, okay? So let's talk a little bit about your book because I don't want to forget about that because that's also why we're here, right? And I think that everything we're talking about, being about in your lane, not comparing yourselves to other, finding your purpose work, your why work, right, is all part of this. But tell us more about your work and your book, Fearless Authenticity: Lead Better, Sell More, and Speak. I love this sensationally. Tell us more about it.
Isn't that a great word?
I know.
Everything we have talked about is in the book
Okay, good.
because it what I and here's the other thing. I had to be convinced to write the book. I had to be convinced that I
Oh,
had something to share to write the book. But the book is all about my journey and other people's journeys and discovery of themselves and their gifts and how it works. I have a podcast as well that's on pause right now because writing a book is a whole notion.
yeah, it's a
Um,
big deal. Yeah.
I pulled a lot because when I had this concept, I realized that, you know, being authentic, being who you are to do the thing you were meant to do is where we find our success. You don't find success competing with people in lanes that are theirs. You find your success competing in your lane with yourself and getting better and doing that and making your mark on the
Mm,
world, right?
mm-hmm.
And so, but it takes being fearless, having courage to do that. And I had put together this system to help people discover that and to apply that because I feel like, and granted, this is my perspective from a life in broadcast, I feel like all of our success is also connected to how we express that authenticity because we don't always talk about our work. We don't always talk about our accomplishments. And I'll be honest, to my other brave women at work, a lot of times we just put our heads down and do our work well and assume or hope that other people will notice. But a key component to being successful is being able to explain what it is you do, how you do it, why that's special, and what you've done with it. When you
Mm-hmm.
look at the most successful people, they're the ones that are able to express what it is they've done. And especially when you talk about meeting new people, expanding your network, moving into new arenas, you have to be able to explain, and sell people on who you are and what you do, no matter how distasteful that may sound at first. It's really not. It's just sharing your gift. And so that's what the book is all about, to take you through that process and help you understand why my perspective is the way it is from my lived experience, but also the lived experiences of a lot of other people. Because I'll be honest with you, I had a moment where I was like, maybe it does just apply to me and people like me, and I started
Mm.
talking to people from all different walks of life, people who were, writers primarily, actors, comedians, business people, entrepreneurs, let's see who else is on the list, folks in corporate, whether that's, I mean, I've talked to everybody from people in advertising to pharma, right, and banking and different places, and everybody to a person said that their success came when they decided, this is how I do things well, and this is what I'm going to do with it.
The
And
other
so I
part is sales, like that idea of sales. I think some women listen like, "Ugh," like you just said, "Ugh, oh God, sales." But if you, and I talk about this a lot on this podcast, is that Let's replace the word sales, although I don't mind the word sales. Like I run departments that sell things, right? Sell products and services. I would say advocate. If you don't advocate for yourself, if you don't use your voice to say, hey, this is why I'm special, you use the word prestige, right? And being yourself, you no one else is coming to kind of, I'm sorry, it's like save you. No one else is coming to recognize your light. You have to do it for yourself. Now, I've had sponsors, I've had mentors, but sponsors, I've had people kind of go, hey, her, and
Same.
sometimes I've had people miss it entirely. And then I have, all types of comparison and, imposter syndrome and da 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 da. And then I recognize, like, oh, yeah, no, I am unique. I do have something exquisite entirely in myself, but you can't rely on those moments. You have to do something with it.
I love that you said that about sponsors, because here's the thing. People don't sponsor you unless you've already proven to them individually
That's
that
true.
you can do what, and they sometimes see things in you that you can't, because all of us, and I would say probably to a person, a lot of us don't realize what our gift is until somebody sees it in us, because
Mm-hmm.
we take it for granted that but that everybody can do it because we can, right? And we don't realize what's special about it. You ever have somebody tell you something that, or thank you for something, you go, oh, that was nothing. That might be a clue as to what it is
Hmm.
that you're good at, because it's something you take for granted that you assume everybody else can and should do that cannot. So if somebody's thanking you for something, somebody's calling that out, then that might be something for you to pay attention to. Um,
Hmm.
I also feel like there was something else you said. You brought up imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a lie, but it is a lie that most of us believe, because we believe that, how could I possibly be here? Right? What can
What
anybody
I think
possibly
what you're
get from it?
referring to, yeah, what you're referring to is like, okay, so let's say you have a sponsor, right? And they, call you out in rooms you're not in, and they say, wow, Jeanne, she has the gift of storytelling. It's it's not, the sponsor can only take it so far, right? I
You
think is
have
what
to
I was
prove it.
referring to. Yeah,
Yep.
you have to prove it and sell it and advocate it to others, because I've been in situation and spaces in corporate, I'll use just in general, where people didn't buy what the sponsor was selling. They didn't believe it.
Mm.
I didn't sell it enough. I didn't advocate. I didn't speak up enough. And they missed it, Jeanne, entirely. They missed it entirely. And so that started a vicious cycle of imposter syndrome for me. And I could have just stayed small, but I decided, and I had a lot of help. My husband was like, you're more than this. I had a lot of cheerleaders and things like that that eventually got me out of the muck. But eventually I had to be fearlessly authentic to myself and leave the org, so that I could reclaim my brilliance.
I love that you said that, because a lot of people think being authentic is for other people. It's for you.
Yeah.
It's really for yourself. When you know what your gift is, when you know and are fearless about who you are, you walk into rooms differently. You own them differently. We communicate things before we even get into a room. That's why I call my process the 3 steps: live it, tell it, sell it. Because
Yes.
live it is about you. You have to live authentically, and and understand from the inside out how you affect people and how people see what you do. Now, there is a fine line, because I think sometimes people are so focused on image and how other people see them that they tend to try to change to adjust to that.
Uh-huh.
But I talk about it from the sense of understanding how you affect other people. Think about it like in a poker game, everybody's trying to hide all of their reactions and things, because everybody has tells. Everybody has
Mm.
things that communicate something to somebody else. The question is, do you know what your tells are every day? I know I can
Mm.
tell right away when I sit down to talk to a friend I haven't seen in a little bit. I can tell if I know them well enough. I can tell what's going to happen that day, because like I have a friend who does this with her hands when she gets nervous, right? When she's worried about something, she does this thing with, with her hands, and it's always her right hand. So when I sit down and I see her doing that. Okay, this is going to be a different kind of conversation, right? Some
Mm.
people, all of us have different things, and some of us get granular with it. I'm just used to reading people because I interview them so much. So you know when to ask a question and when not to, sort of thing, like what's going to shut down this celebrity or what's going to make them open up to you. You hope for the best. It doesn't always work out, but you know what I'm saying? Like when you have to ask about sensitive things, there's timing is everything.
Yeah,
But so I'm not saying people have to get that granular about it, but understand how you affect other people and what you're telling people by your body language. Most of us are so not aware of the things that we do, from our eye contact to our body posture to oh gosh, what the gestures we use, all of those different things affect how other people receive what it is we're saying. Because you could have the most perfectly crafted message in the world, you could have written out what you were going to say, but the way you say it impacts people more. Our nonverbal communication is worth somewhere between 65 to 85%
that's a
of our
lot.
understanding, depending on the study you look at. But because I've looked at a bunch of them, I
Yes,
personally think it's toward the higher end.
I agree.
But some studies discount it toward the lower end because they say the way we perceive things is actually all in our heads. So it's not really as nonverbal as we say. But at the end of the day, nonverbal communication makes more than half of how we impact other people. So understand how you impact other people. And part of that has to do with what you believe about yourself. The tell it piece is the story that connects us. Stories in our oral tradition as human beings, we have not progressed far enough to
Mm.
have let that part go. I don't care how much we use these little things and
Hmm.
these little things, even social media. The reason why we connect with each other is because of the stories that people are telling us through those videos and their posts. The reason why podcasts are so popular is because it speaks to our yearning for, you know oral communication, hearing each
Mm.
other speak. I believe that. That's what I don't have any proof of that.
But it's feeling like I'm not alone, or it's feeling like me too, or oh, that I have imposter syndrome. Oh, well, Jen has imposter syndrome, or Jean has faced this and I have faced this. So like there's just a community, whether it's I know the person directly in a friend group or at work or via the airwaves on a podcast. And this person's listening, I don't know, somewhere across the ocean, right? That brings us together.
It's the story that connects us. And
Yes.
there's a statistic that I can't remember because I'm not great at those until they're written down. But there's a statistic about how, oh, I think it's 22%. We're 22% more likely to remember data when it is put into context of a story.
Interesting.
So I could give you a list of things, like, and I use this example all the time. If you have a list of 20 items you need from the grocery store or from Target or Walmart or wherever, you could probably off the top of your head give me five, maybe 10 if you're good at it, but I doubt you would remember all 20.
No way. Yeah.
But I guarantee you there's a family story from when you were 10 years old that you could tell me.
Yeah. That's true.
All of us have it. Like I remember my uncle talking about my mama, and it's the first time I remember looking at my mother like, "Oh, you were somebody's sister before you were my mama. Oh, and you were that sister. Ah, okay, I see," said the blind man. You know? And then the last piece, the sell it piece, and I actually, even though I love that you're reframing it for people, I want to destigmatize the word sell
I
because
like that too. Let's use the word sell. I just don't want people to be scared off, right? Like by the word sales.
think of it this way, and every mom that's listening that has children can identify with this. You got to sell your kids on what you're going to eat for dinner tonight.
That's true.
If you
That's
only
true.
want to cook one thing for dinner tonight, you got three kids, you want to cook one thing for dinner tonight, you got to sell all three of those children on
That's
that
true.
one thing. We're having spaghetti tonight.
It's
You're
true.
gonna get meat sauce. How about meat sauce for you? How about meatballs for you? And you can
Yeah,
have
it's all
some noodles with
variations,
some,
but it's
but
noodles.
it's still the noodles.
I know. It's so true. I have two kids and they're always like, well, can I have no, no, we have to we're doing one meal. You can have a slight variation off of the main meal.
You are selling that kid
Yes,
on that one meal because if anybody knows children, they will go on a food strike.
they will. And they're tough. They're tough customers. That's a good example, right? Kids are tough.
So if you're already selling, think of it that way. Like always be selling, always, because you're always selling something anyway. So you may as well own it and own your ability at it because all of us are, whether it's an idea at work, even if you're not in a sales position, you're
Hmm.
selling somebody on an idea, you're selling somebody on your ability to do something, you're selling somebody on somebody else's. You're trying to convince somebody to hire this person that you need on your team, above you. Like, this
Hmm.
is the person, right? You're selling something.
So here's one of the journal prompts. I got to remember this and write this down for later is that
Okay.
if you do if giving because sales for me like many years ago was like ugh, like and there are so many women that probably have that feeling,
The ick,
right?
they get the ick from it.
The ick factor, right? But there's something inherently that needs to be written about there. Like, so what about the idea of selling yourself scares you? Or what's the story underneath that scares you, right? Because what comes up for me is you may not be confident enough in yourself to sell, right? Or the idea, maybe you had a bad experience with the idea of selling yourself, or you weren't listened to in a key room or in a meeting, but there is journal prompts underneath that fear or that aversion or ick factor to selling yourself.
I love it. I love it so much because yes to all of that. And also, it may not be part of your um self-definition, right? Like
Right,
even though I have always been part of a marketing sales world, like that's really all we're doing, especially in radio,
right.
where our whole product is sold and we sell things and we endorse things and all of that. I never thought of myself as being good at marketing or sales until somebody told me I was. And I was just like I had a client, that was a sponsor of something I was part of at the radio station back in the day. And this is when I was full time in radio. So this is the 1900s. Um,
You're so funny.
listen, it's true. That's what the kids say.
I know.
They remind me of that. That was in the 1900s. Yes, it was in the 1900s. Damn
Yes,
it.
yes, that's true.
But this client was like, "You sold this really well, and I was just like, "No, I didn't. I just talked about it." And they were like, "Yeah, what do you think that is?" And
That's selling.
I'm doing commercials, not realizing I'm selling things, right? And I'll give you an even better example of it. I remember somebody called me a content creator, and I was like, I don't create content. And that's all I've literally
I know.
done
It's like,
my
wait a
whole
minute, Jeanne, that's
career.
what you're doing.
But that's not what we called it.
Oh,
We never called it that. I can't tell you the scores. Like once I got used to the fact that I was a content creator, because that's all I've ever been hired to do, but that wasn't ever in the job
that wasn't a
description.
term back in the 1900s. You know
It
what I
was not
mean?
a term. It was not a term. And
So
so
have
I was
you
like,
embraced it? Have you embraced it? You're a
a
content
hundred
creator?
percent, 100%.
Okay.
And now I'm mad about all the ideas I created for other people that I had to leave behind. But you know what? As one of my old coworkers told me, she was like, if you had one idea one time, you'll have another one later. You
Yeah, it's
let them have
coming.
it.
It's
Let
coming
them have
back. Don't worry. Let them have it. Your new ideas coming around. You know
They
what I
paid me
mean?
for it. They paid me for it, so they
Yeah.
can have it.
They can have it, not the new ones. Anyway. All right. Well, we've got to close, but the book again is Fearless Authenticity, Lead Better, Sell More, and Speak Sensationally. So please pick it up wherever books are sold. And then I'm gonna sell it. So Jeanne obviously is a speaker, and obviously you are an amazing storyteller.
Thank you.
So if you have a need for keynote, I assume you do. I'm sure you do workshops, things like that. Where can women find you, listeners find you, and your work online and your content you create online?
You can find me at fearlessauthenticity.com is where everything is. Of course, connect with me on LinkedIn. I am Jeanne Sparrow, Jeanne, and last name Sparrow like the bird. At JM Sparrow or at Ms. Jeanne Sparrow on all of the platforms, TikTok,
Oh, you're on
Instagram.
TikTok. Good for you. You're
I'm
brave. Okay, I'm
I'm
not
on the
there.
tickety, I'm on the tickety tockety, but I'm more there just to see what the children are doing, to be honest. I
I
post
gotta do
things,
that. I gotta
but
see
I'm
what the
just
children
there.
are doing.
Because let me tell you something, the rabbit holes you go down on
I've
you've got
heard. That's why I don't go.
listen. Oh, they're so much fun though. I've learned
Really?
so many interesting things and also learned that people believe some insane things that are not true as well. And then I'm that old lady in the comments going, y'all, this is a myth. I need to tell you why. The reason why is because I was there.
I
And
was there. I was
that
living
is
it.
not how it happened. Like, somebody said something about Biggie got shot. Yes, I was there when he got shot, and that's not how it went down.
Whether the children are listening or not. And I wanted to ask you to close this out is what do you believe? We talked about so many amazing concepts. So let's put a cap on our conversation in that. What are 1 to 2 ways that you believe women can be braver at work?
Oh, so my one of my slogans is be brave, be free, be you.
I didn't know
So
that. So we were
yeah,
meant to meet. Okay.
we absolutely were. When I saw your podcast, I was like, oh, I know why I got booked on this. Or why, why my
Yeah, why
people
we're
wanted me
connecting.
on it.
Yeah.
So, 1 or 2 ways to be brave at work every day. Volunteer for something that you want to do, that you know you can do, that you've never done before.
Ooh,
When
I
the
like
when
that.
the opportunity presents itself, say yes. One of my rules I used to tell my interns in both radio and television, say yes until it's a hard no.
Say yes until it's a hard no. Okay.
Say yes to whatever opportunities come your way that
Mm-hmm.
that you are interested in, even if you're not sure how it's going to turn out or whatever. Take the chance. I think most of us don't get where we want to be or dream to be because we don't say yes. Because when you say no, you are closing off not
Mm-hmm.
only that opportunity, but the potential for another opportunity. Because once you say no to people, they tend not to do it again. It's because it shuts down the possibilities. Anybody who's done improv knows that in improv, even if somebody's going down a weird road, you say yes and
Okay, yes. I know.
yes
I want
and
to do improv, so maybe you'll push me
try it
to do
out.
improv.
Try it out. It's
Yes.
fun. I'm not an improver, like in the sense of, a lot of folks, but taking improv classes gives you a whole new perspective on how to work with people. Yes, and because when you say no, that's not going to work, everything shuts down. There's no possibility. Where are you going to go with that? You can't
You
go
can't
anywhere
go
with that.
anywhere.
You can't create from a negative. You can create from a positive. You can create something when you say yes and. So say yes to the next thing that interests you, that comes your way. Even, you know what? And to this day, Jen, even when I say no to things, I say to people, no, but I hope you'll consider me for a similar opportunity at another point in time because I don't want to close off this line of communication. I make it very clear I'm saying no for a particular reason, but it's not a no to you because I
There's
don't
another one. Yeah, there's a nugget like a truth right there. Is that just, we always talk about hard boundaries on this podcast and making sure you're having boundaries. And no is a complete sentence, which I think is Anne
absolutely.
Lamott. And, yeah, a yes, and, right, is that if you want to be considered in the future, be careful on how you use the no, because if you
Mhm.
just say no, then people may close the door permanently. Well, maybe you want that no to be no for now and not no forever.
I say err on the side of clarity. So that would be my second thing to be brave. Err on the side of clarity. I think a lot of times, now I'm not saying you have to explain yourself all the time, but a lot of times we hold back because we don't want people to know things or we're scared of what's going to happen if they know things. Does it really matter? Ask
Not
yourself,
really.
does it really matter? And sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. But does it really in this situation, or is it just your fear of being seen?
Wow. Amen. Let's put like that was an awesome, awesome conversation. So,
Yes, I
Jean, thank you
enjoyed it.
so much for being on the show. Thank you for being fearlessly authentic. And thank you for just giving me so much inspiration in my day. I really appreciate you being here.
I appreciate you for having me. I love the idea of brave women at work. It is so intertwined with my own work. I'm so grateful that you're doing this and helping women to get there because we sell ourselves short far too often. And when we are brave, we can do anything.
Well, that does it on my discussion with Jean today. I hope you found our conversation both valuable and inspiring. As a reminder, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The show is also available on any other podcast platform you enjoy. Until next time, show up, embody fearless authenticity, and be brave.